Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So you had 10 minutes of me awkwardly waiting for anybody else to join. So.
Ah.
Okay, well, enough of our silly chit chat. We're excited to have all of you join us, and like we want this to be super interactive. You know, if you went to Summit or were just lucky enough, like me, to just watch the sessions online, you know, hopefully you've had an opportunity to watch some of them. I know I still have a long list of sessions to watch. I'll get around to eventually, although that's what I told myself last year too.
Or if you presented at Summit, we'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah. So, like I said, feel free to put anything in chat or come off mute. We want this to be everyone's welcome to throw in their 2 cents about Summit.
Awesome.
So, getting started. You know, our theme this year is going to be agents. If you've listened to any Summit session, I think you heard that word. It's dangerous if you made it a drinking game, I think.
Exactly. Oh my God.
But this is what they presented in one of the keynotes. They're orchestrating agents.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how these get incorporated and added and adopted. And I didn't know if anyone had a particular session.
Yeah.
Um,
I did. I know, like, Adobe already had like some types of AI kind of coming out before they did this whole reveal of a whole new layer. I think everybody now has to go change their architecture slide to have the agent like layer in it now. But I know like within Adobe Experience Platform, they're kind of having that. There was an agent like you could ask it questions and it would tell you, you know, kind of answer questions about the platform itself. You kind of going off, like I think Adobe even said like it's off all their documentation that they wrote. And I think that's a really cool way to start using it to help get you in the right direction. Because I feel like that's how, just outside of Adobe, I don't know, you know, within, you know, Microsoft has their own like Copilot. I feel like that's what I'm most comfortable right now. Because it's even on search. Like if you put a search like at the top, it tries to help pull together information for you. So I thought that's one that came out kind of before Summit that I think looks interesting. But I do think it'll be interesting to see how companies are able to, you know, give their thumbs up, you know, compliance and legal to say, yep, we can use this, or how does it, you know, play and how is it kind of like allowed to be used specifically like in like healthcare or financial industries where there's lots of rules and regulations. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's coming and we can't stop it. So I guess we all have to get on board and learn how to work next to agents.
Exactly. And we have like little QR codes. So if you scan it, it will open it up on your phone and then you can have easy access to these if you haven't watched them yet. So that's what the QR codes they'll take you right to this session.
And we'll be posting the deck on our event page after this. So it'll be out there so you can come back to it later. So.
Yeah. I love it.
I know.
Yay.
The sneaks this year, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyone had a favorite one? I was particularly impressed with Slide Wow. Thankfully, I'm past my peak slide making point in my career. I probably just jinxed myself.
Oh my God.
I thought that was pretty cool. Because I'm like, the current charts and everything, the workspace just kind of, I think it's fairly terrible when you take anything out of workspace and put it in a chart. So I was really excited about that.
What does that one do? Because I've started listening to this and because I love Ken. I think he's a great actor. And I was at Summit, but sadly during sneaks, I had to go back to the hotel and do a deploy. Who else is with me? Like, even though we're at Summit, still had to come back to Earth and do a deploy for the company. But he just seems so funny. So tell me more about slides, because that sounds really cool.
Yeah, you just like press a button in Workspace and it will make PowerPoint slides and wonderful themes with charts that look nothing like Workspace charts and add text. It was pretty dang cool.
Oh,
I don't know if there's anybody in this world who enjoys making slides for presentations. I'm being power to you if you are one of those people. But I'm over that.
Oh, that is super cool. Oh, I'm gonna have to. I've started listening to these, and but I'll have to get back on this. I've been listening to them while I've been mowing my lawn, so you guys will have to do that too. Like,
True story.
On your phone and listen to them as you mow.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that on the sneaks page, they have each of the individual sneaks. So if you want to just watch a couple instead of all of them, like watch the whole sneaks, you can get through them pretty quickly. So I don't know if anybody else had a favorite. Jeff, did you have a favorite? Mr. Bloomer?
I just enjoyed watching the AI videos of Eric.
Yes. Yeah.
If you know if you know, you know.
Oh, yeah. What's happening? You can't leave me hanging. Like, I was doing work stuff. It wasn't like I was out partying, even though I was in Vegas.
Yeah, but all you have to do is just watch me, and if you know, you know. It's like I was like I just kept watching it. It's like yeah, it's like the AI with the hands. I was like, how many times? Oh I kept forgetting to talk to Eric about that afterward. It's like that was quite interesting.
Oh my gosh.
I think he's got to be such a good sport to be up there.
But no, it was still fascinating. I think they still got a little bit of work to do to make it a little less awkward, but they're moving forward on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I still found a lot of the stuff that as they keep moving forward on it, AI is still going to the Gen AI stuff. Just it keeps. I find that as a way to generate ideas. Yeah. That's how I treat the Gen AI stuff.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it can generate some cool stuff, but
yes,
I don't get to do cool stuff in my job. Guess I should talk to my boss.
Yeah, Gretchen, be careful what you say in front of your boss.
Don't tell me that Adobe Analytics is not cool stuff.
You're right. It is cool.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
That's why I'm here.
That's right.
Well, that is cool though that something very analytics made the sneaks, because I feel like lately in the last few years I've been kind of going more toward that too hot for main stage, because it's really that usually always focuses on something analytics, and sneaks I feel lately has been
moving away a little bit.
Yeah. So
100%.
So that's cool.
Too hot for the main stage is always one of my favorite.
Yes.
Ones.
Oh, awesome. Sweet. All right. Well, then I definitely have to get in front of that slide wow and check that out. So awesome.
Yeah. It's really cool. Well, now we know that Ken Jeong's favorite ice cream flavor is strawberry.
Yes.
So that's what I learned.
It cracks me up.
Oh,
okay, here's the slide.
Jeff.
That was fun.
This kind of a newer. I like how you took it. Like, you took your internal campaigns, and I like how you did it on both ones. Like, it was very connective and cohesive. Yes. So 2 tips, but it felt like one. So
I appreciate that. No, that was kind of the idea, was to tie things together to really make it a homogenized set. Yeah. Because I felt there was a way to get everything to really tie it in a nice neat bow, and that was the goal. Because I felt that with internal campaign IDs. Well, and the thing is, the whole point of bringing that into Rockstars was, if you think about it, internal campaign IDs is something that has, first of all, really has never really been discussed at Adobe Summit, nor has it even been talked about very much in that kind of a setting.
Yeah.
And I had to actually, I forgot to do it at Summit. I wanted to do a little bit of a tip of the hat to Adam Greco too, because he actually introduced internal campaign IDs in some of his stuff, like way back when, if you remember some of his materials. And that's where I had first gotten some of the ideas, but then I developed it, internally. And so I had all of the stuff that I presented at Rockstars is stuff that I've been using for years. So it's all practical stuff. And what was cool was I just got to basically demonstrate on stage everything that I use. So you saw the internal campaign tracking codes, then the classification rules that make it nice and easy to see. But then what really makes it sing is the tags, because if you're going to have the classification rules in order to bring them up, well, then it's like, oh, okay, we all know how it is to have classification rules against EVARs or anything like that. You go start searching for them. It's like, well, there's one or two of them, but they never come back for you every time that you're looking for them. So it's like, okay, if you create the tags for them, then all you have to do is put in hashtag and then ICIDs that come up in a nice little grouping. And then if you really want to, and I didn't say that then because I only had I only had a limit of 10 minutes for everything. But also, if you have the sort button, it'll put them in alphabetical order. So you put them if you hit the sort button for alphabetical order, it puts them in nice, neat order. And then all you do is you just drag and drop whatever you want, element-wise, right into the page. And as you saw, I had all my arrows and all that stuff on the screen. You can see, you can just place everything on the screen nice and neat, however you want. Play around with it. I can't tell you how many times that I've just messed around with it, swapped them around, whatever order I want to go ahead and do that. And I did, 3 of the fields, those are the fields that I use the most, which was tactic and the other two. Yeah. But it works so well as a tool. But I'll tell you what, I felt that in comparison, what I was doing when I saw what the others, with the other 3 were doing, I'm like, whoa! I didn't even feel like it was in the same league. I mean, when Mandy was doing hers, I'm like, yep,
she's really she's too smart.
She's the math whiz. I mean, the girl. Mandy. I mean, they are actually a math.
She's getting her PhD in math.
Yeah, she's getting her. That's what I thought. She was getting her PhD in math.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Mandy's getting the PhD in math.
That's awesome.
So,
I think you all came at it different angles. I thought it was like a great smorgasbord because it was you all picked a different aspect of like analytics or the tool to talk about. So
yeah.
Yep.
And Jeff, one thing I really liked about yours is I feel like not a lot of people do enough of is really the classification rule builder.
Yes.
Oh, that's because regex is terrible.
Oh well.
They need to make it for those of us like me who really struggle with regex and have to copy Sarah's code to get anything done.
See, that's job security for Sarah.
Yep. But that's why I also demonstrated building it the way that I did, because when you saw the regex, it was super simple. And I knew that I was going to get the deer in the headlights with the regex, but when you actually take a look at it and the way that the internal campaign ID is built, it's made so that all you have to worry about is looking at one position for everything.
Yeah.
And that's why it's done in that simple fashion. Because you're right. People don't like dealing with regex and all that stuff. So the more simple you do it, the less you have to worry about with all that stuff, because everybody deals with junk all the time when they're trying to do domain IDs or anything else when you're trying to do classification type stuff.
Yeah. And then with
So
classification, you can leverage it for like so many different things.
mhm,
I mean, for example, even when you're only working with the traditional Adobe Analytics or legacy, I should say,
yeah,
not a lot. I don't see enough people actually pipe in multiple dimensions into a single EVAR. So you can actually then split them out into sub-classifications. So
yes. Well, then it was funny when Jen did her tips on the marketing channels for mobile apps. I'm like, all right, did you like see what I was doing for my for my tips? So,
yeah,
but I just thought that everybody, was just did some fantastic stuff
yeah,
with their rockstar tips.
yeah.
So I thought it was an amazing session overall with everything that they brought.
hmm
I was super impressed. But yeah, and then with the introduction, folks, of the Hall of Fame, that was the kicker.
That's
So
pretty cool.
yeah,
That
I
is
think
cool.
it's really cool because they're going to be able to bring in. If you go to the if you go to the site that they actually created, there's more on there. They're going to be putting tips on there, and I think that their intention is also to be putting tips from other people on there too. Because if you look, there's stuff from last year, as well.
Oh, what website is that? I missed. There was a website. Maybe I forgot.
If you, I believe, I think it's actually linked also from from the session, but there is a post out on LinkedIn
Okay.
for it. But I'll see if I can't search it out and find it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And find it. I'll see if I can't get it linked into the chat here.
Yeah.
But it was such a good session. And
Well, Jeff,
and that's not talking about. I'm talking about the other people. I think.
You're funny. Well, you were like on brand. Like, not only were you a rock star for Adobe Analytics, but your analogy, the need for speed, tied into Bash, because Bash was all about like at a racetrack.
Well, and what's really funny, because I didn't even know that that's what was going on. I found out, like, because I submitted my tips like way back in December, and then Eric told us what was going on with Bash. I'm like, no way. And
Very cool.
it's like, yeah, we're going to be doing Bash there. I'm like, well, that's really cool, because I already had my idea for the theme of it, and I actually even ordered the jacket and all that stuff. I'm like, okay,
Oh, nice.
look, everybody's going to get a race car themed, presentation after we've just been at Bash. I'm like, okay. So that worked out. Yeah, that worked out really well, because I'd been working on that presentation for a bit. So yes, it really worked well.
Yeah.
I love it when a plan comes together. That was,
Yeah,
like that.
I was very pleasantly surprised when I found that out.
Yeah. I feel like I don't use tags enough, because I don't use tags, and I probably should be using. I tag my workspaces, but not like the individual dimensions and events. So.
Well, like I said in my presentation, I said it's kind of like putting NAS in your car engine. It's almost like a secret weapon that you can use to because I've had people say, it's like, what's this tag, or what are you using it for? And it's like, oh, watch. And I plug it in, and they're like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then, because I've called it my personal assistant, I've called it secret weapon. You can call it, your secret agent. There you go.
Nicely done.
There you go. Right.
For sure.
So that's that. All of those things, it can really do all of that stuff for you, because it's just that quick little shortcut to bring up your stuff. So that's why I like tags. And you're right, they're very underutilized, because the one thing, my one beef with Adobe, is they don't give you a really good way to manage them. And
yeah, that's one thing I was going to say. It's not a great way of managing them, modifying them, or joining. merging multiple tags together.
Yep.
Unless they've made some recent changes I'm not aware of. That's one thing I didn't like about that.
Yep. And so if they gave you just a little bit way to manage all of them,
Yes.
they would become that much more powerful too.
Yeah.
So because you have to kind of go into separate sections and a little bit separate areas and kind of like work with them a little bit. So yes, that is the one issue I have.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Well, look forward to what you bring next year, Jeff.
Oh boy. I know. I raised the bar now for myself. It's like I got to figure out what to do next.
I know.
I love
See,
it.
Jeff, you need to get in the Hall of Fame. So.
Oh boy.
Exactly. I love it. Too hot for main stage. I like this one. This one. I think I liked all of them. I don't know if I could have voted for just one of them.
Explain why was the winner. I believe with the inline derived fields, the close second.
I know. I can't believe inline derived fields didn't beat it out. I mean, explain why was cool, but yeah, that kind of like argument for derived fields, or it's not argument, like defending the case. If you can open that up to like anybody being able to do something like on the fly, but it's just their own, because I like that guardrail of kind of like, segments and calculated metrics. Like you can make your own, and I mean, if you're admin, you can share, but I like that idea with derived fields too. Like, hey, if I'm just able to kind of mess around with my own and make it, then that could be pretty powerful. And then like share it with an admin or something like that to say, hey, look at this is going to be really helpful somewhere else. But yeah. Let's see. Oh, what was the one? Was it? Oh, because someone in this makes kind of tease like theirs was the only one that didn't include AI. Was it easy mode? I can't remember. I thought
I believe it was easy mode. Yeah, and it was the only one I think that was Adobe Analytics, not just CJA.
There you go. It was for both. Yeah, that was awesome.
Which I think that would actually be pretty cool because, I know when to right click, but I know a lot of people I work with don't know when to right click or just aren't in the habit. So
it did resonate, like, because sometimes depending on where you right click, you can get different options. So so this one I definitely was mowing when I was listening to it, because I was like, I wonder where they're gonna put it, and then they verbalized where they were gonna put it, like over in like the left hand rail. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess there's a lot of space over there that they could probably utilize. Wasn't it the right or left hand rail?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I thought that was one of those aha moments with the UI.
Yeah, I mean, duh. They probably should have been doing that the whole time.
Oh, too fun. I bet we see that one rollout though. That's what was my bet, even though it didn't win, because it seemed like it was so, I don't know, so close to being able to happen, or more tangible than not. But
yeah, like why wouldn't you do that if you could, right?
I know. I feel like their UI person came in and be like, you can't be hiding everything. You're like, yeah, it's cool to say right click, but just show them what you have.
Yeah. I tell people there's right click magic everywhere.
Too funny. Yeah. But let's see. Yes, one of the, and this one, the move in ready, there, I think just, it was hard to narrow down when I've been coming back to listen to the sessions, because I feel like everything is so interconnected with Adobe Experience Platform and CJA and Adobe Journey Optimizer and Target, like a lot of the tools that we have and we use. And so I was checking like all those boxes, and then I'm like, there's a lot going on. So then I went back and like, okay, I'll just check one box at a time and like listen to CJA, listen to AEP, like more focused stuff like that. But this one, I really, really liked the move in ready. I think there's one other one that kind of had a house analogy going on. So this one, and I think it might have been a Ben Gaines one too, like talked
Yes,
about,
it was.
was it Ben's? Okay, talked about
Okay.
houses. So we went from racing to houses. I'm like, all right. But I thought this one slide or like kind of screen grab did a great job of saying what they all talked about. And like Gretchen and I are going through an implementation of going to use Web SDK, and we want to use like a custom schema, like not use the schema that's tied to evars and props. Like there's a schema out there for that, but really trying to follow and make a new schema and be able to utilize it for Target and AJO, be able to share it and do, that same page personalization. So that will be really cool. So I feel like, but this, when I listened to it, really kind of followed and made sense to what like Gretchen and I are doing. So I think if I was to give someone either starting off or thinking about it or even doing it, like this would be a great one just to kind of do a gut check of how are you doing it, how are you thinking about it, and then just kind of rolling it out. I think on some of these, we have done kind of what I call like the first hits free, kind of like to make you fall in love with it. So we've taken our data that's in Adobe Analytics and use that source connector to make it a data set in AEP. And then we can pull that into CJA. And, we have gotten a lot of good usage out of that. Like analysts are already using CJA with the Adobe Analytics powered data. We're marrying it up with like AJO, our journey optimizer data. So there's a lot of great stuff already happening just using that connector. So I think that has been a really great way to start. And with that, we did do some stitching. So I would actually recommend that to people because you kind of, everybody gets to learn with you. You're learning about the stitching, you see how it works, you get people, you still have your Adobe Analytics ports that you can say, here's still my production and what I'm used to and what I'm using, but then you have CJA over here to kind of start getting accustomed to it. So I think, on those best practices, there's like those 3 project types, and that's one of them. And Adobe will say that that's not like a sustainable or long-term solution. And that's true, but it's really, I think, helped get people excited about it, here at our company. And so now, like when our team and Gretchen and I are coming to say, okay, we all love this, let's, start collecting the data through Web SDK. And not only can we have this goodness with CJA that we're already using, but it layers on some more goodness. We really got a lot of support. So in that follow best practices, that's one of the 3 project types, is using that connector. And I'd say start with it and then, kind of build toward that more long-term solution that they'll say is that 3rd one where you're using Web SDK and not the connector. And then that second part where they say that CJA upgrade guide, that is in production. So everybody, if you have access to CJA, it is over. Like when you click on workspaces, it will be on that main page in the left-hand rail. And I do like that. Like it's a slick little tool where they have some questions that you answer and it will build out like the steps to take. And that's something I think Adobe, some of their documentation, the documentation that they write that I love the most always has like, here are the 9 steps to follow. I remember like when they rolled out RDC, like as a way of, not RDC, but what is it? The remote RDC's is a check deposit way, and I'm thinking too much of work. But the regional data collection, there we go, regional data collection. This was a few years ago when Gretchen and Joe and I were at Sprint. But when that started rolling out, Adobe had a really great outline of here are the 9 steps to take. And granted, like some steps are really short and would take 5 minutes and some were really long. And that's the same thing here with that CJA upgrade guide. But I really like it. Like we filled it out, what it produced. I'm like, yep, I agree. Because sometimes you're like, well, maybe I don't know if I do that or it's missing something. But I felt like they did a really great job of covering all the bases. And they actually tried to put like an estimation of how long it would take. Because some things do just take a couple days and some take a couple months or a few months. So I highly recommend checking out that CJA upgrade guide. I thought it was really, really good. And then yeah, that third one of execute the implementation. Sometimes it's just nice to, because Gretchen and I were kicking around like, okay, we know this could be painful in some places and easier in other places, and where it's painful, we're trying to think of how can we lessen the pain. And I think that third, execute the implementation, just kind of help reinforce some of the thoughts that we were thinking, and helped kind of show some other tools. I think it was in that third one where Adobe talked about like some component migration that you can do from Adobe Analytics to CJA to help with the workspaces. That is actually pretty stinking slick. And we did ask Adobe when we were at Summit if they could do the same type of tool for CJA to CJA, because what the tool does, the migration, is it will help say, okay, this is like EVAR 13 in Adobe Analytics, but in CJA, it's not called EVAR 13, anymore. It's called page URL or something like that. And so you can map, and so then it will create that workspace and know how to recreate it in CJA for you, which is really fantastic.
Yep.
But like we talked about at the very beginning, we are kind of doing that, get everybody excited. So we're copying our Adobe Analytics data up into AEP and pulling it into CJA. Well, that schema that it's using out of the box, that connection, that's not the schema we're using for our long-term approach, and which is fine. But now it would be nice to have that same kind of migration of, I want to migrate a workspace that's using kind of like the out of the box schema and map that stuff to my new schema, because it's the same data. We're just capturing it in a different format and tidying up some things. And so we did ask Adobe if they could make a CJA to CJA component migration. And they thought about it and they're like, I think we could do that. So hopefully, hopefully that turns into something, because I think that would be nice too, because they are trying to, we could utilize their tool, kind of get accustomed to it, then move over to the long term and be able to move over there a little bit more slickly or easily, smoothly. There we go. If we had that tool there. But yeah, this was a good one. As you can tell, I just gushed a whole lot about it. Now this one, the run, deploy, and operate, it focused more like in the AEP space of it. So what we just talked about on that last slide was kind of more little like Web SDK and CJ, maybe like both ends of it, not really the middle of AEP. And this one really talked about schemas, field groups, making your entity relationship diagrams. And this was another really good one, I think, to listen to. And the guy because you kind of get bookend, there's like 3 presenters, and the one in the middle, he talked a lot about schemas. And so Gretchen and I have been making schemas. And since we're at the beginning, we're at the point where we do a little bit, try it out, and if we don't like it, we delete the data set and we modify our schema, and then we send some more data in, see if we like it. If we don't, we delete the data set, modify our schema. So a lot of deleting of data sets and modifying of schemas. And you're kind of thinking like, okay, maybe other people are getting this faster than we are getting it. But the second presenter here, he gave us confidence. He's like, no, that's how you do it. Like, do a little bit, try it out, make sure you like it. If not, then, just kind of keep iterating. Don't try to do like a whole big thing at once. Do a little bit, make sure you're happy with it. So sometimes it's just nice to hear you're not the only one doing a little bit, changing your mind. So then therefore deleting your data set and trying it one more time. So I think this was a good one for people working on the AEP piece of it. And just when you need a boost to know, like, it's okay to do a little bit and try again. So.
Yes, I think we need in a lot of places in our lives, not just in our schemas. Do a little bit and try again.
And it is a big deal. Yeah, because like we've been talking, like right now, I think with app measurement. So with app measurement and launch, Adobe Analytics, like Gretchen and I, and probably a lot of you on this phone, like we can do everything. We can make a new EVAR. We can update, and that's how we'll go into the Adobe Analytics UI, make our new EVAR, set the persistence, all that good stuff. We can then go into launch and, maybe scrape the page if we desperately need it, or, we can work with developers to get something in the data layer. But that's all in launch. And then we can push our changes live in launch. And, data's flowing in. And that's pretty much just been like, a few people needed, like probably just the people right here on this call. But when we move to this new like web SDK world where you have the web SDK sending the data, but then you have AEP and there's so much data there. It's not just your web data anymore. And going into CJA, that really changes who all is involved. Because now if I need to make a change in a schema in AEP, well, because we're at a financial institution, and I'm sure it's like this at healthcare and maybe even, at other non-regulated industries, the team in charge of AEP resides within IT. Well, Gretchen and I don't reside within IT. We reside outside of it. And so we won't get access to that prod sandbox, which makes sense. Like lots of data, you need your checks and balances. Everybody that has a bank wants that. I as a customer want there to be checks and balances. And so while that's wonderful, it all of a sudden changes our mode of operation. Now Gretchen and I, we have a dev sandbox. So we do get a dev sandbox where we can make changes and then test it out. And then we'll work with our IT team to promote stuff from our dev sandbox to the prod sandbox. And so now all of a sudden, IT is kind of back in the critical path of analytics. That was the
how it all started.
With tech managers, it's like, oh, you can do it yourself. You don't need IT. And now we're kind of back to, oh, you need IT, or whoever is like that governing body of your prod sandbox in AEP. So that is something too that Gretchen and I have been starting conversations with that team to say, hey, you guys are going to be critical path. And so when we have deploys or something new, you guys will be, up with us doing deploys at like 8:00 at night. So it just kind of made me giggle when I think about that, as now we're kind of back. We've come full circle. At the beginning of life, we needed IT to do deploys for us because the website had a JavaScript file that had the analytics. Then we went to HEG management. We're like, no IT. And now we're kind of back again to, yep, IT is critical path on getting something out for analytics. So it'll be interesting. So yeah. And then this is the Bing Gains one, the Control-Alt-Shift. So you see, I think there was a little bit of, I think this one is the one that had some housekeeping in it too, or like, 5 keys to successful move. Yes. So everybody was moving houses. And this was a really good one too. Oh, here's a component migration that they talked about. So this had really good items too that you should work into, like a plan of moving from whether it's Adobe Analytics and just, going straight to Web SDK and CJA, or even using that connector for a little bit. I think all of these were really great. And, when I was listening to it, I actually sent a reminder to myself as I say, oh, tomorrow when you talk to Gretchen at work, tell her how great she is. Because, Gretchen has already been doing user onboarding. She's been doing user training. So this is a really feel good one. So this is a good one that you could send to your boss and say, like, look, they're talking about this at Summit, and these are things that we're already doing. Like we're already doing like lunch and learns, or doing weekly office hours to talk about, CJA and what's the differences between that and Adobe Analytics, and, talking about eventually turning off Adobe Analytics, because I think the more you talk about it and people hear it, then it's not so much of a surprise and they can process it. So probably goes back to, we all need a degree in psychology to talk about decommissioning and moving to something new. But what did you think? I think, Gretchen, did you watch this one too, right?
Yeah, I did, and I liked it. Like I said, this is kind of more the user facing, how you're going to work with our end users and get them to move over. And like I said, I got really lucky. I had training planned on segments for last week, and in the last release earlier this month, like segments used to be called filters in CJA. And then right before I'm doing my training, they moved to I hadn't even put the deck together yet. So thankfully didn't even have to change any slides, but they're now like, hey, it's called a segments in both analytics and CJA. So I thought, but when we're doing, we have started when we're doing training for, segments, or we did one for calculated metrics, we're doing it both for Adobe Analytics and CJ at the same time. So people can see that, hey, it's not scary. It's the same for the most part. There's, a few things that are different and a few cool things you get with CJA that you don't have in Adobe Analytics. But I think that's, introducing this, more than a year before we're going to transition fully, I think it'll help, help the scaries, so people are more prepared and ready for it. So
yeah, that's what we say. When we talk to like, obviously Dutch and I are doing little road shows about it, and that's what we're hoping. We're telling people that by the time we go to decommission Adobe Analytics, no one will even notice that it's not there because everybody's over in CJA. So yeah. And then kind of now jumping back over into AEP. AEP does have an additional SKU. So this data distiller is another, like, it's an add-on product. So when you get AEP, you can have this as an add-on. And it is pretty slick. You can use it to create new data sets. And when you make these data sets with data distiller, you can do a lot more with them. Like, I think you can make data sets by just using query service, but it's limited on how you can then distribute those data sets. But with data distiller, those data sets you can, pretty much sky's the limit on what you're doing with them. And I think they did a really great job in this session of, talking about the bottom picture. What's the difference between data distiller and query services? Because at first you're like, isn't it the same thing? They look very familiar, or similar. And so I thought they did a really great job of highlighting the difference between the two and walking through a pretty cool use case. It might be like a Mandy George use case because I think they did a lot of a lot of math on it too. So, but this is be a good one for anybody that uses AEP and has that distiller product. I think this was a really great one to kind of give you an overview and make you feel more comfortable with it. Oh, and there's always always a presentation where if you need slides for a presentation to go to it, and this is it, the Amplifier Customer Analytics. Like they had, and that's like, this is one case in point of a really cool slide. But this guy, not only was it a really great presentation, but you definitely can cherry pick his presentation to get some good slides for your presentation when you're asked to talk about customer journey analytics. So listen to it and then bookmark it to come back and borrow some slides.
Yeah. Download that presentation. Huh?
Exactly. I may be doing that right now after this call. So, and then, just what where Adobe is going, they always say it's, it's all about the customer focus, customers in the center. And I thought these two, the identity twister, which apparently if you went to this one in person, you got a belt buckle. So I'm kind of bummed out I didn't go get a belt buckle. And then this accelerating your audiences, both of these just did a really good job, because even though identity and like the customer is center of this, it's pretty intense. You have identity stitching like in your data set, you have profile graphs, you have real-time CDP, you have real-time customer profile, you have all these like profile-ish things going on either within AEP or on the applications that hang off of AEP. And so I think these two did a really great job of talking about identities and profiles and making it like clear to understand like what's going on. And I think just maybe the repetition, I'm definitely going to go back and re-listen to them, will help kind of solidify or help me understand even like better or deeper all the ways that Adobe is trying to use profile data and how I can use it from the data set, to real-time CDP, to what's available in AJO. So just really making sure, because I think that's the next big thing. I think schemas and XDM, like that was the first big thing in my mind as a implementation person, to say, okay, how do I format this data? And so, like I said, Gretchen and I are kind of rolling with that. And now the next big thing that I feel is really different is just making sure that anywhere that there's profile enabled or an identity, that I can really crisply and deeply understand it. And these two were good ones for that. Yeah. Okay, now this one, you're going to be like, Sarah, why is this one in here? Because it was under Adobe Advertising. So when you're looking at your sessions, you have to select that one to get this bad boy to pop up. But it's near and dear because they did talk, because we do have some CTV, so the connected TV, and making sure that we can report out on it. And this was an Adobe person with, I think it was Thermo Fisher with a client. And they just did a really great job. The Adobe guy at the beginning did just a great job of explaining Adobe advertising and all the data points. And then as you see here, kind of tying it into all the different pieces, including CJA and, analytics and real-time CTP. He did a great job of making that whole picture. And I feel like, that's the world that we're going toward. That's why you go to CJA, because you have all the different data sources that you can pull together and in a more easy fashion. And so this one, I just thought did a really great job of explaining advertising to me. That's not my main role. And tying it into stuff I do love, CJA and collecting data, and how it can be reported together. And then the Thermo Fisher girl was really fun too. So I would think it was Thermo Fisher, but I would definitely recommend this one because it's just, starting to help us all learn different aspects of tools that are going to be sending us data into CJA that we need to be able to make sure that we understand and love. Yeah.
So I don't know if you had some themes, everyone. If you want to come off mute and say what resonated the most. Sometimes I kind of would miss when Summit was mostly about analytics, just because that is, my first true love. But we can do so much more than that. And so there's tons of stuff out there that are all different people. So, and just, it's so hard to keep track of all these tools. So I hope you guys found something. So I know personalization is a big buzzword here at where we work right now. So we are working on trying to do some things around that. Optimization is always important to everyone. So I don't know if anybody has anything to share, particularly on this one.
I did like, I think it was on the second day, like the keynote speakers. Maybe it was the second, I can't remember, first or second day. The guy from Coke. Oh, it might have been the first day. I can't remember. But the interview they had with the guy from Coca-Cola, I really liked that. I thought it was inspiring. So definitely not the vertical that I work in, but it was one of those that you're like, yeah, it just pumped you up. It made you excited and just jazzed for the rest of the day. And I do think they had a microphone on his Coke can, because when he opened his Coke can, like everybody in this auditorium heard, and that auditorium was huge. So I'm like, there had to be a mic on the Coke can. So that made me giggle to think that the Coke can was mic'd up.
They were reaching back to one of their old commercials.
Yes.
Probably so. Oh, too fun. I love it. Well, I
Yep.
think it was all Coke products too that you could drink there. So I was happy because I'm a big Diet Coke fan.
Yeah, Sarah runs on Diet Coke and coffee.
I know it.
So
Oh, I love it.
you want to get stuff done like Sarah. Lots of coffee and Diet Coke.
Caffeinated.
Yep.
Caffeinated is the way to go. Then I'm hoping people had something more fun to do than Sarah did working on Deploy in Vegas. If you made it out there, I know it's.
Is Jeff still on?
I don't think he is.
It's like he always has some good stories.
Yeah. He's Eastern time. He's just like, you guys, it's like it's closing time.
Yeah.
I know it always feels like kind of a Sprint Digital reunion when we go out there because you see how, Kansas City is kind of a small digital town.
Yeah.
Smaller in digital analytics town. So you just get to see, a lot of people you've worked with over the years. And that's always kind of fun.
Yeah, just like John said in the chat, like you do always run into people, whether it's at the airport or they're at Summit itself.
Yep.
Yeah, I know when I went last year, I even shared a cab ride from the airport because I'm like, here, you want to cut in line? I'm ahead of you, in that giant snaky cab line that is the Vegas airport. You come up here with me and we can share a cab.
Oh, too fun.
So,
And you survived.
and I survived, yes.
I love it.
And then I always, take a $20 bill that I can blow at the casinos, and so me,
Yep.
I go crazy.
I love it.
I will say over the years, I am net positive in my casino what I've come back with.
John's cab driver scared him.
Oh
no!
Oh my gosh!
He was like, "I'll get you there fast." He was drafted. He too was in the racing theme.
There was a time. This is a long time ago because we went up and saw. I can't remember the name, but the guys who ran Analytics Demystified.
Oh yeah.
In Chicago, there were 3 of us who went up there just like a day trip. Just go to Chicago, go to their workshop, come back. I call it near death by taxi. That was like one of the scariest days of my life. Kansas City is as big as a town that I need to drive in or be in. So I wouldn't work in Chicago. I don't think I could do that. So.
I love it.
Well, John, I'm glad you lived through that experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't that fun. I was in the back seat wearing 2 seatbelts.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Like all the seatbelts. Oh man.
Yeah. Summit is always good for a story or two.
Yep.
I feel like you're now the agent. You're James. You live to see another day, like James Bond or something like that. Made it out of the taxi.
So, yeah. Well, that's, I think.
Do we have one more slide?
One more thing?
Yeah, I thought there was one more slide. There you go.
There it is. I forgot. So this is a CJA product innovation quarterly overview. One of our favorite CJA people, Brian O, had it on his LinkedIn. So you can scan the code now to register, or like I said, we'll have this deck up probably tomorrow with the recording that you can download it and or just flip through the slides on the website and get registered. So, even if it hurts, CJA gets all the love and all the innovation. So we got to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It does, die a little bit inside every time, but you got to keep moving forward.
Exactly. I love it. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I hope you guys learned something and are excited about what you got to learn at Summit or, from the sessions that you're watching online. So there's some good stuff out there.
Yep.
I know I've already done a couple things. I'm like, wait a minute, I can do that? Like pause, see if I can do it. I can do that.
Exactly.
Woo!
I love
Yeah.
it.
So
Sweet.
So thank you all for coming, and we'll have something up in the third quarter since this is our second quarter event. So we'll be sending out something the next couple months for the next topic.
all
If you
right.
have suggestions on that, feel free to reach out, drop us a line of what you want to hear about. We're always open to, we're doing this for you guys, not just because we like to hear Sarah talk. But we love
That's
to
why I
hear
show
about
up.
There's some good
always wanna
questions
hear
this
Sarah.
year.
But we want to make sure you're learning and relevant, and that we are doing. What do you want? What do you want to learn?
Yep.
Adobe Analytics, CJA, workspace implementation, whatever. We're here for you. So, thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
See.